Hello, folks. How's it going? Welcome. Welcome to part 5 and part 6, which is right after this one of Charting with D3.js, which is part of the season launch of Global Hack Week. And I see there are a couple of questions already, but before I answer all the questions, please do register for the session. I have highlighted the registration link, so please do register for the session. I'll also share it once again just so that everyone has it. And also let me just set up a bit quickly. Yep, everything seems to be working fine. Now the questions, do we follow along with you? Can you please let me know? Yep. Yes, you can follow along with me, and I have no idea what this is referring to. So I'm going to just say that this is completely separate. Okay. If you have not been a part of the first 4 sessions, I will give a quick overview in a bit. But yes, ideally you can follow along with me, and all the code is available on the GitHub repository, which I will share in the chat. Background music is at a minimal volume. Yeah, this is good. Cool. Okay. So yes, you can follow along with me, and I will. Give me 1 second. I will just quickly take a sneak peek into what I had done before. Yep. Okay. So first of all, welcome everyone once again. Secondly, if you are completely new here, you are not aware of exactly what has been going on. So we are building some charts using D3.js. All our code is open source. Feel free to contribute. I see there are at least 14 people who have forked this repository and are continuing with me building this project, and learning D3 along the way, myself and yourself. We all are learning together. So that is the beauty of this session, I would say. Secondly, there had been 10 commits, which started from drawing SVG shapes. So we saw how to draw SVG as a normal HTML element. And then we also understood what this path variable does and how we can use that path variable to kind of draw text. Okay, example M, L, and H. We wrote that in SVG. We purely wrote it by following the coordinate system. So that was the video 1, I would say session 1 of this. Then in the session 2, which was right after session 1, we learned about a bit of grouping and also did some animation on SVG elements. So we saw how we can animate an SVG element. We gave it some motion. We, did some, let's say, from a pointed border, we went for a rounded border radius. We tried to recreate what Windows 7 used to have, or Windows XP, one of those used to have a screensaver where it would, just touch one corner and there would be some animation of some tile moving, some text moving. So we did it with a very basic square, which we could animate to move along the y-axis, x-axis, and together, which created a diagonal-like shape. So we did that a bit, teeny tiny bit of animations. Now, once we did that, Okay, so we did that, and then along with that, we also tried to see if we could start D3, and we actually did that this session. So in session 2, we started with basic D3 transformations, where we learned about what D3 does. So we kind of did the same thing no, we tried to replicate. No, actually, no, I will not call it replicate. We tried to see the same functions that we could use JavaScript for. D3 also provides API to do those things. Example, selecting an area and adding an element in the DOM. We understood what D3 does, how it manipulates the DOM. So that was our session 2. Then in the session 3, we learned about data joins and transitions. The data joins part was a dud, I would say, because I had messed up one thing which someone from the audience pointed out. So thank you so much once again for that. And then we did some transitions. And then I think we started with a line chart. Yes, that was session 3. We started with a very basic line chart, how to create one. And we did not complete it, which was completed in next session, session 4. So we created a line chart, a bar chart, and I did not have time left. So I did like we started with a scatter plot and I completed it after the end of the session and I pushed it to GitHub. So you can get this line chart, scatter chart, and everything. Actually, I can show it to you, right? So let me go live. Yep. So if I do a line chart, this is what we had. We could not add a data point or remove a data point that was pending, but that's fine. I forgot about that actually. We did a bar chart using D3. We could add a bar in this one. You could remove a bar. We could sort the data. We could also do an update on the data and sort it again. So a very smooth animation transition, no CSS involved. But that was our dynamic bar chart. And then we had, what else did we have? We had a scatter plot. Yes. So this was the scatter plot where I also added the functionality to pan around, functionality to have a brush to show some selection. So I have selected 3 circles. This is the sum, this is average, this is median. That's fine. And you could disable brush. You could zoom in by like 2 fingers zoom in on my mouse keypad, mouse trackpad, I would say, or using a scroller. So that is the zoom functionality. And on the zoom, you can then still select, let's say, 1 circle, and that works. And you could do a reset zoom, which resets out everything. So that is what we had completed so far. Hope there are no questions about it, but you can find all the code that we had up until this session right on GitHub. And now we are on session 5, and right after this we'll have session 6. And before I move there, let me actually fix my GitHub. So let me take this out of the screen. So I need to fix my GitHub because I have 2 GitHub accounts. I think I've mentioned this in one of the previous sessions. I need to make sure that my correct email and not password, but configuration is set up. Okay, done. Oof, that's stressful. Okay, anyways, where were we? Works. So now what are we going to do in session 5 and session 6? This one I want to purely, solely dedicate to, what's the word? Purely and solely dedicate to working with D3 in React. So D3 in JavaScript we have seen. We know that it works with DOM elements. JavaScript also manipulates DOM elements. D3 can also manipulate DOM elements. So considered, if you consider them, then it's like, okay, they're doing the same thing. The only difference is one has a visualization aspect to it. So it just makes it look nicer. It can draw a line, draw a bar, draw points, uh, and also has a few more functionalities like, let's say, zooming and panning. Now, uh, D3 with React, if you go to their website, let me just close all of these. Okay, so D3 in vanilla HTML is what we have seen so far, which works. But D3 in React uh, has example. Most of it will work out just fine. The only difference I would say is we'll use a lot of refs. Okay. Uh, so the problem is, example, as you can see, uh, in D3, operations such as D3 selection, transition, access, so drawing the axis, ensuring that we are zooming in properly, panning here and there. Axis we just saw what are axis. We also saw selection, where the whole charting was done by first doing a D3.select to select a particular DOM element and then plotting the chart there. The chart was nothing but a SVG element. Okay. So we were drawing just SVGs, and the SVGs would have paths. Let me show it to you again so that it makes much more sense for folks who are joining me for the very first day. So if you remember, we were doing a selection on the chart, and then we were creating these some pieces of code. Example, we want to group everything. Then we created one group for x-axis, one group for y-axis, and then all these rectangles. We just told it that create a rectangle. We did not tell it that the x position should be this or the y position should be this. We just told it, okay, create a rectangle, and everything else is taken care of by our code of, and also D3 of calculating the positions and stuff. So if I do a sorting, it recalculates all the x positions, all the y positions of every rectangle. Okay, so this is all taken care of by D3 and our code that we wrote. And yeah, that was it. So all of these things are basically inside one single SVG element, which is our whole chart, right? So if you think about that from that perspective, we need to have a reference to our DOM to be able to create these element and update these element in real time. Now the problem is, as even D3 says, that they manipulate the real DOM, which competes with React's virtual DOM. So if you're new to React, a very quick overview. So in React, the reason why React is better slash faster is because it has this concept of virtual DOM. So when you make changes or when there are UI changes that happen, React first makes those changes in a virtual DOM. It batches all those changes together. It goes like, now this is an example. Okay, this is not exactly how it happens, but think of this as an example. So the way React would do is it would, let's say, assuming every UI change takes 5 seconds to happen. React will be like, okay, in last 5 seconds, let's see all the changes that are done. It sees, okay, the user has clicked on this button, then this button, then this button, then that button. Okay, so these 4 buttons have been clicked. Because of clicking on those buttons, this new text will pop up, this thing will happen. So it kind of takes all those things into account, batches them, and then it updates the virtual DOM, which is a copy of the actual DOM. Okay, the DOM is nothing but what we see here, this HTML document, doc type HTML thing. This is the DOM. Okay, document object model. So it does not directly update this DOM. It first creates a copy of this DOM, updates the virtual DOM, and when those 5 seconds, let's say, are complete, it takes the virtual DOM, all the changes in the virtual DOM. It has created a diff between those, and it applies it to the real DOM. So D3 actually, now this was an example, okay, just to think of it, that you have collected all the changes. Think of it as a box of sand, and once you have collected all of them in one single box, you go and dump it in the playground. Okay, your playground is your actual DOM, and your box of sand is your virtual DOM. Okay, so yeah, that's what React would do, and D3 is going to manipulate the actual DOM. So there is a competition. So how do we avoid that? We'll need to use refs. And the example here is of a line plot. And even I'm going to do line plotting. But yeah, that is the idea, that they compete and we'll have to keep a track of the SVG element using refs. Okay. Here they have kept a track of the X and Y coordinates of something. I'm assuming X axis and Y axis. Using refs, but yeah, even we will be doing it. That I think is a quick differentiation between D3 in normal JavaScript, where it actually manipulates the real DOM, versus D3 in React, where it actually would be impossible to exactly work with React's virtual DOM for most of the things. It does work for some stuff. Example, scale, array, interpolate, D3 format. They do not interact with the DOM itself. This is for calculating, let's say, adding numbers, bisecting data, blurring data, grouping data. It does not really work with DOM. It works with the data. It does not make any changes or adds a new element to the DOM. It does not add a new div or a new SVG or change the SVG. All it does, it calculates the data. So these things do not work with the DOM. So they work fine in React, but things that do actually manipulate the DOM, they, in those cases, will use refs. Now, before the start of this session, and because I did not want to spend time writing the server-side changes and a basic UI changes, I have done a pre-part there, I would say. So I'm going to spend the next 20-ish minutes, I would say, in explaining what I have done, because explaining it would be comparatively quicker than writing it out live, especially because that is not exactly related to D3 charts. It is more related to the way the data will come in and how the data will work and how we'll store it, stuff like that. Okay. So what have I done before this session? So you can find exactly the things that I've done before this session in the session 5 pre-commit, kind of, which is this session, okay? So session 5 pre-commit. And I've created a server, and I did not create it by myself completely. I copied it from an existing person's code. So I found this and I just added a few bits like MLH Data Hackfest registrations are now open. MLH announces new mentorship. These are not true, except for the data, not Data Hackfest. What's the next one that's coming up? MLH.io/events, I think. Oh. 2026. Oops, I should change that. Yeah, it is Data Hackfest. Okay. Yeah, so I added some fake data there saying like MLH Data Hackfest is now open for registration. That's a market news. So what's the data about? Let's talk about that first. Let me give you an overview. So this is live market data. It's fake data. It's not the real actual market data of a few stocks. Which stocks are those? They are listed here. Okay, so this is our stock list. Uh, there are 15 stocks with these symbol, their names, which are available here. So we are creating some fake data for these stocks. I will go over the data quickly to minimize this. Okay. So what do we have first? So we have a bit of configuration where it has a volatility factor that at every time, the maximum change that we'll do is 5% from the previous update. What is the minimum stock price, maximum stock price, and 70% chance that the stock continues trend. Sorry, as in like if it's going up, it will 70% chance it will keep going up. 30% chance it will go down. Okay, if it is going down, it will keep going down. 70% chance of that. 30% chance that it will go up again. Stock list. Some market news. Some of them, like all of them, are nearly fake, I would say. Market open stock strong with tech stocks leading gains. Federal Reserve hints at interest rates. MLS Global Hack Week season launch sees this new season mascot. I hope you all have seen the new season mascot. Give me the name in the chat if you know what is the new season mascot. So some fake slash nearly real news must have been real at some point, right? Uh, then there is a new map which keeps track if the stocks are trending up or going down. What is the current stock data? Initially, it generates some random stock data with ID, the symbol, the name, which have been defined here: ID, symbol, and name. Then it creates a random price, then how much change it is. Change percent is 0. If there's the first data point, of course there's no change, and the change percent is 0. Trend is create a like on math.random. If this returns a value greater than 0.5, say that it is trending upwards. If it returns a value less than 0.5 or equal to zero point 0.5, then say it is going downwards. How much is the trading volume, and what is the current time of the tick? Okay, so it is called as ticking data because at every second you will have a price. Wow, no one knows the name of the new mascot, is it? It is Jewel the jumper wire jellyfish, if you don't know about it. Okay, and you can watch the keynote from Swift from yesterday, I think. Yeah, depending on the time zone you're in. So from yesterday, today, or day before yesterday, I don't know. You can watch the keynote where Swift goes over AI. What's the key? I watched the keynote. It was interesting about the use cases of AI, how it is changing the world as we see, and also we launched the new season mascot, which was interesting and great. I love the jellyfish. I keep on saying octopus for some reason, but it's a jellyfish. Okay, so generating some random stock data with some fake values here. Then we are initializing the market data where we are saying that for each stock, we are changing what is the direction, the strength, 0 to 1, how strong it is, some random values basically we keep generating. What is the current stock data of a particular stock, let's say, get stock by symbol. Yeah, this is, sorry, a particular stock. Not everything is used, actually. Some of these, as I said, I just copied and deleted most bits. I only kept the things that I needed. So this is going to generate some fake stock data, and it is going to send it over WebSocket. So it will not be a REST call, a REST API call. It would be a WebSocket connection, which will remain open so that the client and the server can keep on communicating. If that does not make sense, just hold on and I'll show it to you. Then it generates price movements based on trends, if it is going up or down again. Then you have the volatility factor, some random change applied to the stock to show, oh, this stock is going up, so going down. Basically, the same stock keeps changing. Okay, the values keep changing. We update the market data, we update we update all stock prices with movement. So if the whole market is going up, all stock prices have a positive uh, application to them. If the whole market is going down, like there is a lot of, let's say, selling in the market, then the market is going down, then all the stock data needs to be recalculated, and it needs to show a downward trend. So yeah, that's the idea, very frankly. Updating a single stock price, if not provided, it updates uh, nothing. And then there's this final part where it sends the random market news. So all the random news are basically from this news array that is created. I will not say I have created, it was already created. I just changed bits, I copied all the code. uh, yeah, so some random market news data where all it does, it from the market news array, it tries to find math.random will return a value between 0 and 1. So let's say 0.5 multiplied by market news.length. Since it's an array, it will have a length. It has a length of 15. So whatever gives this value multiplied by 15, and then floor it to get a whole number. And from market news array, for that whole number, take that news out. So then the random news would be, let's say, the one at the fifth position. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth position is this news. So it takes this news, it adds a severity to it. Again, too many random number generations here. So mad.random, if that comes out to be more than 0.7, then it is a very severe high severity news, or it is a normal news. And then again, some very random category is assigned to it. So if it's economic category, corporate category, technical category, or global category. So for the same news, it is a possibility that it is once in economic, once in technical, once in corporate, once in global. Why? Because math.random will return some random value. So that is all the stock data we have. Very simply, it generates stock prices for these 15 stocks, and also it sends some news. Now, how does it do that? It uses WebSockets. So what is WebSocket? Very simply, a WebSocket is a way of maintaining a real-time communication. So if you have a REST API, a RESTful structured API over HTTP, what you do is you would make one request at a time. And the way it would work is, you are a client, let's say your web browser is a client, and there is some server which is another computer somewhere. And your client, when you visit a website, it first makes a request to the server asking for the data. Like there is a to and fro connection, there's TCP handshake and stuff, but not going to go into that. You request for a resource, you request instagram.com. It goes and finds where is instagram.com hosted. So what is the IP address, unique number of instagram.com. It goes and finds that. Once it has found it, it asks it for some data, let's say the home page. The instagram.com is like, okay, since you have your requested URL is instagram.com, that's it, with a forward slash, let's say. So you have requested for the index.html page, okay, the root HTML page, let's say. So instagram.com will return the HTML page, and the connection is terminated. Now you go like, okay, I want another page. Let's say you want someone's profile page. So then you make another request. So you will change the URL and you'll make another request. Instagram.com will be like, okay, you requested for the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for this particular page. Let me send it to you, and close the connection. So a RESTful connection would get terminated, let's say. I wouldn't say RESTful, I would say HTTP REST connection, okay, will get terminated this way. And every time you will make a request, get some response, and done. Now, what if you want the connection to remain open? Example, you want to keep getting, you want to keep, you want to get the stock price streaming to you. Okay, not like every time there's a change, you will make a request. How will you know if there is a change or not? You want to keep that connection open and connection alive, and keep on getting the stock price as and when it changes. That's how you get some real-time communication. So to do that, or to support that, in HTTP 1.1 there was a way of switching protocol to a WebSocket connection, where a WebSocket connection is first on HTTP. It is on HTTP, okay? So it is still a HTTP connection initially, where you make a request to the server. You say, I want to open a port, I want to open a connection, and you can think of it as a pipe. And you say that I want this pipe to remain connected. Do not sever the pipe, do not sever the connection unless absolutely necessary, and keep on sending me data, whatever data it is. So once the connection has been established, once the server has verified who you are, then it will be like, okay, let me just keep sending you data. It will keep streaming that data to ensure that the server is still there, and the UI, which is in this case the web browser or web page, I would say, uh, to ensure that that pipe is still there, you will have some sort of heartbeat mechanism, some sort of ping pong mechanism, where at every certain intervals, example, let's say every 12 seconds in this case, you will be like, ping, are you there? Okay. And the server will be like, pong, yes, I'm there. Yes, I'm here. So every 12 seconds, you will keep on doing this to ensure that this connection remains alive. And why are you ensuring that? Weren't you getting streaming data? Well, it is possible that you were getting data for stock of Apple, and there was no change for, I don't know, 1 minute. Okay, no change in the stock data of Apple for 1 minute. So you cannot keep that connection alive for 1 minute, or you cannot keep a connection available for an infinite amount of time, because it costs money. Okay, always think in terms of money. It costs money because you have to keep your server open up, you have to keep your UI up. It will take up some CPU, some memory, and it will cause lagging on your device. On the server side, it's costing electricity. There will be changes in, let's say, database, so even that would be some money spent. And overall, it's just inefficient. If you have a lot of people who are pinging your server, you have, like, let's say, 1 million people who are hitting at the same time, and someone opens it and then forgets about it. Why do you want to keep that connection open? That person is not interested, basically, if they have left it open and they're not doing anything, and their mobile has gone to sleep or their system has gone to sleep. So in that case, you will sever the connection. But what if the person is actually there? Okay, they are still browsing your website. The only thing is that they're interested in Apple stock, which has not priced or not ticked or not changed for last 1 minute. So do you want to sever that connection? That's a bad user experience. So in that is why you have this ping pong check, or a health check, to see if the server is still there, the UI is still requesting for that resource. So that's our ping interval. Now you have that pipe open, and you can have, and now on that pipe, we have some fake things here. So we are saying that every 30 seconds, we'll send all stocks update. Every 1 second, we'll send a single stock update. Every 12 seconds, there will be a ping pong check. Every 20 seconds, we'll send the market news update. And if for 30 seconds nothing happens, that is connection timeout, and we will chop off the connection. We'll stop the connection. Then next thing is We are keeping track of every client. So, the best way to visualize this code is by running it. So our WebSocket is running on ws //localhost 4005. And these are all the things that it has, the server features. Okay, not written by me. So if I open this, it says it cannot reach because this URL scheme that the browser understands is incorrect. Okay. This understands a HTTP scheme. You're trying to go to a WebSocket stream. Scheme, sorry. What if I go 4005? Then it says that you require an upgrade. Okay. So you're trying to request for a WebSocket connection over a normal HTTP, and this needs to be upgraded and it needs to be switched to like using the status code 101 switching protocol, so that it switches over to a WebSocket connection from a normal HTTP GET. Okay. So that is what this means. So how do we visualize it? Hopscotch.io. If you're not aware of it, let me. So this is some of the previous things that we had done at one point in time. And let me share this with you all. No, don't save anything. No, 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 no. Perfect. Okay, so we can go into this real-time tab here, and there is a WebSocket, and we can change this. Where is our WebSocket connection listening? It is on 4005. That's our port, and I click on that, and I click on send. Connect, and as you can see, there is the connection. So it has connected to this localhost 4005. It is connected to our server, and our server actually says, oh, there is a new client connected with this random ID. This ID is self-generated, and total number of clients that are connected is 1. And it received a pong from the client. And as you can see, every single second it is sending this data. Initially, it has sent a huge amount of data, and then stock update single. Okay, stock update all. Market news. Stock update single. So as you can see, it is sending an update for a single stock. In this case, Apple, here PG, there's MSFT, Meta, PG, Procter and Gamble, that is Apple, Meta, Nvidia. So Nvidia, I have no idea how that pronunciation goes. So this is a communication with our server. Now, if I take this to incognito and I say that I want to connect to this local host again, I should now have 2 clients connected. So the total number of clients connected is now 2. Let me hide this so that you can see it. So 2 clients have been connected with our server with different IDs, I would say. So there's this client and there's this client, right? And yeah, both of them are actually streaming data, as you can notice, as you can see. There's a market news sent, which is there's this data which has a headline, a severity, category. A single stock price update has these things. What is the price? How much it has changed? How much is the change percent? Is it going down or going up? How much was the volume traded? Like, did someone trade like one stock? Did someone trade like 29,000 stocks? Shares? I don't know, 29,000 shares of a single stock. Sorry. That would be the correct term. And now if I disconnect from here, it says, oh, this client has disconnected. Now the total number of remaining clients is 1. Okay. So that is some real live streaming of data that is coming in. And the It's kind of a pipe that remains open. Once we have disconnected, of course, you don't have any data. Okay, so this has stopped. Now if I connect again, it opens a fresh connection. So as you can see, this ID does not match anymore. So H9QWS was the old one, and now we have ZCLJ3C. So every time you sever a connection, you basically create a new pipe. So that's some real-time streaming of stock data, some fake stock data. Let me know if you need a quick overview of the code. I had done a past stream in one of the global hack weeks about WebSocket, so you can watch that as well. Okay, so this one sends automatic stock updates to all other clients, send update for one random stock every 4 seconds. All those time intervals are defined here. It says 4 seconds, but I don't think it's 4 seconds. It's 30 seconds. No, single stocks update is 1 second. My bad, sorry. Cool. And it broadcasts this update to all the connected clients. So if you have like 2 connected clients, it will broadcast it to both of them. If you have 1, it broadcasts it to that one. Then you have the market news update, which is sent every 30 seconds. Ping pong monitoring to see if this client is still there. Okay, last, is it alive or not, basically. And I think, yeah, that's it. So when the connection opens, it will send a welcome to the stock WebSocket server. So did that send? Yes, that is the first message that it sends, the initial message. So all these types are user defined types. Okay, so between the server and the client, there'd be a contract that, okay, if you send me the message in format type as initial message, I'm going to then send you back. No, sorry, this is the server sending it. So the server will send this type initial message, but server can also receive certain messages with some strings. Okay, so it is literally a string saying if the client, which in this case is this UI, sends a message with, let's say, some type. So if they send a type, how many types are there? Yeah, subscribe to stock and also send the stock name. So if the server receives this message, okay, so it is literally a switch case. If the server receives this message, it will add it to a list of subscribed stocks that it is maintaining. Okay, that, oh, this particular client needs updates of Apple or Amazon, and then the server will respond with this message. So it is literally a contract between the client and the server of certain types of messages and the data that it will send, which in this case is in the format of JSON. So when the client first connects, it is going to send a type initial message with the data, welcome, this is your client ID, this is when you connected, these are the available commands that you can use, and this is the initial stock data. So if I make a fresh connection and I say that I want to send a message of type ping, and I click on send, I sent a ping and the server responded with pong. As you can see, I sent a ping. So this is my sending, and the server responded with a pong and says, oh, you are this particular client, right? Which is same as the client ID which I got assigned when I connected with my server. So it says, oh, you are this particular client, and this is the server timestamp, and this is the current timestamp. So it received it at 8:59, 8:59, as you can see, and it responded back in 8:60. So 1 millisecond, point 1 millisecond, 0.01 millisecond. I don't know, but it's just quick enough, basically. So I can keep on sending this ping, and the server will respond with pong. And now you can see, like I clicked on it like multiple times, and there we go. It is quick enough. Okay, so that's a ping pong play in progress. Yeah, and that's it, I think. So these are handle incoming messages from clients. So if a message is received by the WebSocket connection, then it goes into checking what type of message it is. If the message is contains the type as get stock data of all, so if I send this message, then it responds with something which is defined here, that send back a JSON, stringify a JSON, and send this data. Okay, if the message is of type get stock price by symbol, okay, then it will send back an error saying you are sending me a message, but that of get stock price by symbol, but you did not specify the symbol. So what do you even want? So what do I need to send if I send a get stock price by symbol? I have to send a data. So type this and data, and I say, let's say Apple. Prettify. Let me move all the way to the bottom of this. Okay, and now I hit on send. I send get this single stock of Apple, and it returned me the value. Okay, when I sent it, it returned me the value to me. So if I tell it that, oh, give me the price of A B C D E F G stock, will be like not found. These are all the available symbols. So it returns a type error. So using these types, you can beautify the UI. So that's a bit of overview of the server side. And there is on initially it will send all the market data, start sending auto updates. It will console log these things, which you can see here. It also shows what messages were received from the client, and to shut down the server, which I had to improve. It was not shutting it down properly, so I had to make some changes here. So when I do a shutdown right now, so I do a control C, so it clears all 4 active intervals for sending one single stock price, multiple stock price, and stuff like that. So if I have done that, as you can see, it now shows disconnected. My client is saying that disconnected. The server is not available. But if I start it again, will it start again automatically? No, you have to connect again. So that's our server changes, which I have pushed, by the way, so you can follow along with me. And I also created a React project. Now this React project is following Vite, and you can find all the details on vite.dev. And it is pronounced as Vite, okay? Okay, so I followed this. We have done this a lot of times before in my previous sessions, so you can take a quick look about how to create a React project. So here it says template view, but I prefer to go for React TypeScript template. I named it D3-React-chart. So npm create Vite at latest D3-React-chart -- space -- template and React-ts. And I made these two changes in it. I set the port to be 5177, and by default it should open, so open true. Then I did whatever instructions we told me, which was npm install. So I did that, and then I created a few things which are not a necessity for D3. It is more like some extra work to get the UI up and running. So a few things that I did create is step one, I created a use websocket.ts. So this actually is for creating a WebSocket connection with the server. So our UI needs to also have a WebSocket connection, right? Uh, or at least work with WebSockets. So this is what it would look like. Let me clear this. Let me go over to the application tab, put it right next to this one, clear everything and reload. Okay, so once you reload, a fresh connection is opened, and initially it says failed because well, we don't wait. There should be a wait somewhere. I forgot to add that. But it first disconnects and then it connects again. So don't worry about it. So it connects, initial message is received. It received all stock data. And as you can see on this right hand side, it shows the stock prices of the live updates that it keeps receiving. So whatever stock it receives data of, it updates only that particular stock. So currently Apple is not changing, if you notice, until we receive it in live updates. So it is 99.67 right now. Let's hold on, and there it changed because we got Apple live update. So that's the market overview. This is the live data part, live updates part, and there's also this market news. So same market news comes twice, thrice, because well, math.random could be anything. Okay. And if it is in red, then it means it was a severity high, else it was normal. So I've already taken some time to just quickly add some CSS and some code for it. So this is divided into two parts. This is like 70% of the screen. This is 75% of the screen where the chart would be. This is our main focus of the session. And there's this 30% where it shows the live data that comes in the market news. Only keeps track of last 5 market news. So this is the use WebSocket connection, which establishes a WebSocket connection with the server. That's it. That's all it does. Let me just arrange my notes. Okay, cool. Arranged my notes, and where was I? Cool. So that's what this one is doing. It keeps maximum 5 news items. It establishes a WebSocket connection. Very quick overview. It uses very simple things. So it creates this use WebSocket. So I realized this when I was preparing this file, that in the session that I did WebSockets in, I went in class and I should not have. I should have stuck to using functions and using React and use effects and stuff. So this is a very simple one. Simple implementation of WebSocket, how you can connect to a server from a client using WebSocket. So some use state variables here to keep track of the state. State is nothing but the value. Initially, when this starts, ignore this part for the time being. It creates a WebSocket connection. Then on open, it will console log connected to the server, WebSocket server, which we can see if we go into console. And if I scroll all the way to the top, it says connected to WebSocket server. Okay, so connected to WebSocket server, set connected to true, there is no error. And we request for get stock data of all on the first connection. So we send like we receive an initial message and we request for get stock data of all. Okay, so now once the messages are received, whenever you receive a message, we console log that message and all the type of the message. So WebSocket message received stock update single. So it keeps console logging that part every time it receives a single update. If it receives market news, it also console logs that market news. Oh, so the latest market news is about MLH. Let's see. MLH announces new sponsorship opportunities for companies. Woohoo! It's all fake, just by the way. Okay, and now depending on the messages that it receives, it does something. Okay, so it console logs it, and you may keep seeing this session storage stuff. So I'm storing everything in session storage. If you're not aware of session storage, so if you go into the application tab, there are two types of storage that you have. There is a local storage, which is persistent. It remains there for a longer duration unless you clear it. And there's this session storage, which is valid for some session. Okay. Ignoring the phantom, because that I think is a wallet. There's a stocks data history, which actually keeps track of all the stock updates that it has received from the server. Okay, so it keeps updating this. And when was the stocks last updated? And this is my current local time. So it is 5:58, 17:58, 5:58 p.m., 28, 29, 30, 31. So every second it receives an update. So every second this gets updated. And whatever stock it has received an update for gets added here. Why? Because when we create the chart, we will want to use all that data. Okay, all the historical data. We want to use that. That is why we are keeping a track of it. And I'm putting it in session storage because as soon as you create a new tab, you close your browser, you come back, session storage would be cleared in Chrome and it would start fresh. Okay. So that is why we are storing it in session storage. Whenever, let's say, stock update all is received, it again stores it in the session storage. When a single stock update is received, then it goes into the session storage and it tries to find which stock it has been updated. And so if it is Apple, let's say, I keep on going to Apple because I think that's the easiest one. But if, let's say, it receives a stock price update for Apple, it updates that. Okay, so this array of object gets updated with the latest data. We are going to store like 100 updates per stock in the session storage. So like at least that's how I've done it. Market news, as I said, only last 5, so that is being added in this local state variable. Okay, so market news is not stored in session storage. On second thoughts, I could have stored it in session storage. And on close, it will console log this messages and say set this connected to false. If there is any error, it will console log the error and also set error, which is a local variable, to whatever is the error. Now you can use this variable to show something, show an alert, do something with it if you want. And finally, there is a cleanup to close the WebSocket connection because it does not auto close. So this is the cleanup part to close the WebSocket connection. And this hook returns socket, connected, stocks, news items, and error. So it returns a reference to the socket, the WebSocket. It returns a Boolean saying if you're connected or not. So you can use that to make some decisions. It returns all the stock data that it has received. It returns all the news item it has received. And it returns any error that it has received. Now, who uses this? It is used by app.tsx. So this is our entry point. So here we call the use WebSocket, where it uses 1, 2, 3, 4 things: connected, stocks, news items, and error. It does not use socket. Okay. In here we have divided the whole thing into 2 parts. There is the class main app, as in like there's the main app, which is the whole thing. And then you have the main content. This is where the chart would be, and there's the sidebar. So divided into two parts. Now the sidebar itself has stock list, live data feed, and market news components. So those are the three components that you currently see: market, stock list, and then live updates here, live data feed, and then the market news. Okay. So yeah, these three sections exist. Stock list will take, of course, the list of all the stocks. The live data feed will also take the list of all the stocks. The market news will take all the news items that are received from our WebSocket connection. And else it shows waiting for connection if, let's say, you run it for the very first time until some sort of data is received. Now, going over to stock list, all it does, it actually shows all the stocks. Okay. So there's market overview. It shows the stock item where it uses the stock symbol, the price, how much it has changed, if it is more or less, depending on that. This is assigning a class name. So these class name are just styles. So you can go into app.css and see the style. And yeah, there's just some colors defined there. Stock list, yes. And if it is more than 0, then it was a positive change, else there is nothing. So the positive and the negative thing is about that. How much it has changed, 1%, 2% values. And that's it. That's the stock list. Then you have the live data feed. This is actually showing this live updates that we receive from the WebSocket. So here it keeps a track of how many feed items to show, 15 per update. Will show 3, but you'll only receive 1 technically, so that's fine. Price decimals is 2, how many decimal places to display, and how many decimal places for change to display, like this. So the price to display and the change to display, we want 2 decimal places for both of them. You can make it 1, you can make it 3. It depends on how much server sends you, all those things. One use state variable to keep track of it locally, and one is a previous stocks ref. So now this is needed because if, let's say, we receive update for Amazon, I want to keep a track and only update the Amazon price. So this time it only updated Netflix, it only updated Tesla. So we need to keep a reference to the value. That is why I'm using a ref. So if there are no stocks, then just return. On the first render where there will be no data, ignore the ref, okay, and set it to 0. And then in here, as soon as you receive an update, find which stock you received an update for, and update that value, which will be passed to the market overview. All the stocks are sorted basically based on the amount of change, and the current timestamp, which is the local time. What else? So yeah, this is the local time. As you can see, this is the exact time that's happening. And we are keeping only 15 items, so that is fine. And store current stocks for next comparison. So we are keeping a reference, as I said, for the next render. Why do we use ref? So ref is a cheat code, I would say. Technically, it is your way of cheating to React in React by saying that even if you do a render, keep a track of this value, and I will change it. You don't change it. Okay. And yeah, between renders, it persists that value in a way. So I can remove this from here. If there is no data, then it will show a waiting message. So actually, I can do a quick refresh, waiting for stock update, waiting for market news. So yeah, there's a waiting there, and shows this light blue thingy, which keeps on flashing, which is, yeah, they're receiving live updates. timestamp, stock symbol, and yeah, a very basic one. Not much there. And market news, which is market news. Okay. Uh, shows the headline, shows the category, which is global, economic, and I don't know what else was there. Corporate, and two more. And I guess that is it. So this is what I have created already. There are two utility functions. Yes. There's the stock data utils, which we will not use mostly. Like, uh, we'll use it, or you can use it. Let's see. Uh, so this is for generating some historical data. So when we start the chart, it will start at like literally 1 point, and we may also not receive any update for that stock until our server match.random actually decides to send an update for that stock. Okay, because that is randomly chosen and given a value of. So we can generate some historical data if we want, but I don't think we'll need it. I'm going to actually say, when we write the code, we can wait for 10 seconds. Hopefully we would have received updates, stock price updates for some stocks, and then we'll plot those data. So this is some utility functions for how much price has changed, date range. Okay, so this is literally in today's date, from what time to what time. Okay, so this will calculate. Okay, for last 10 minutes, last 15 minutes, it will show like today between 7 p.m. 7 7:10 p.m. to 7:15 p.m. let's say. And then there's the session storage utility functions, which is uh, to store to the session. It stores the initial stocks. It stores the stock update, where all the logic of finding the stock and updating the stock is there. Store multiple stock updates, which we do not necessarily receive, but we do receive whenever the server sends us all stock updates. So that, and there's a has enough historical data, which will depend on, at least there need to be at least 10 entries for the stock that we choose to plot. So this will return a boolean, and this is to retrieve the data. So previously it was to add data in the session storage, but if you want to retrieve it, there is this one. Get stock price change statistics, how much it has changed, is it positive or negative, which we'll use to change colors. Time range and log stored history. This is so that we can actually log it to the console. So these are a few things, and then the CSS is very basic, I would say. I dumped all of it in app.css, which on second thoughts I should not have. I should have created at least 2 files for the CSS, or at least 3 files, 2 or 3 files, I guess. But yeah, that is some time spent. Now, all this, I know it took 1 hour to explain, but this is still quicker than actually writing it down. So all of these changes are available on GitHub. And let me do a git commit dash amend, because I want to update that one change that we did on GitHub. Did I not do a git add? Stupid. Okay, nothing has changed, just some bits and pieces. Okay, so now that you have all this code, you can fork the repository so that you have a copy for your user, and then you can clone your forked version, or you can also open it in code spaces so that you get VS Code on the web. Okay, so you can do that if you want. so that you have everything. You don't have to install Node.js or anything and deal with any issues. You can just run it in the cloud. Once you have forked it, you need to run npm install to install all the libraries, all the dependencies and dev dependencies for the server. So inside the server folder, you have to do npm install, and inside the client folder, you also need to do npm install. Client in this case is D3 React chart. Okay, so now let's start adding charts. let's start charting. Let me quickly. Okay, so what do we start with? We first need to start by adding D3 in our dependencies, right? So I'm going to go over to package JSON and D3. Let's install D3. So our D3 version, as I last know, is 7.9.0. So I'm going to add that, last published 1 year ago. And we also can get the types for it, so which we can add as a dev dependency. So difference between dependency and dev dependency is dependencies are the one that you need when the project actually runs. Okay. But dev dependencies are the ones that you need when you are coding, when you're developing this. So when the project actually runs, it does not need the types. Okay, at runtime, types are not required. It is more of a development feature so that when you're typing, oh, I know what to change. Oh, this is something that is available, stuff like that. So now that we have added 2 new packages, I need to install them as well. So I'm going to run npm install. So it has installed those packages, and my package log has also updated. Not going to go through package log. It is huge always. Now I'm going to do npm run dev again so that my server is up and running. Should be no changes other than, yeah, just showing it. Okay. So now that we have installed the packages, let's start by going into our components and creating a stock chart. So in our components, I'm going to create a new file. Let's call it stockchart.tsx. It is a TypeScript, and I'm going to use a shortcut RAFCE, which is because of some extension that I have. I think it's this extension, ES6 or ES7 plus React/Redux/React Native snippets. So that gives me some shortcuts. Example RAFCE, which is React Arrow Function Component. RAFCE. Yes, React Arrow Function Export Component. So it creates the arrow function component with export default. If I do RAFC, then it is React Arrow Function Component. It does not have a export default. It has export const. I can also do RAFCP, which I have never used. Oh, it downloads prop types as well. Nice. I don't use it. I think you can also have a React class component. Yes. And it creates a class component. So some shortcuts because of this extension. I think I can get you the marketplace of it. Yep, there we go. If you have VS Code, or even if you're working on code spaces, you can add this by going into extensions. Okay, so I've created this stock chart, and now I'm going to go over to my app.tsx, and I'm going to say, like, I'm going to replace this ready for D3 charts with stock chart. So now if I go over to my UI, it should say stock chart. Perfect. So yeah, that's the simplest of things that we could have done. Just added a stock chart component there. Now our stock chart component needs to have access to stocks to plot, of course. So I'm going to say that this one will take stocks as a prop. Okay. So stocks as a prop. So then it means this one will be unhappy in app.tsx. It will be like, you said that it needs stocks as an input, but you're not passing it. So let's pass it. We already get all the stocks data thanks to our use WebSocket hook. So just using that. Oh, everything else is export const. So we can also make this an export const instead of export default, just because. There is no reason to do this except just because. Nice. Now this looks nice. Okay, so our stock chart, and all it does, it now takes in the stocks value, which is nice, but it does not use it. So let's use it. So I'm going to wrap this into brackets, and instead of stock chart, I'm going to say h1 stock chart, and in here I'm going to plot the stocks data. So I can do curly brackets, and I can do stocks dot. Oh, I think there is, I don't know how much data in it. So let's try with stocks, just stocks, and then it will be like, no, error. So it says an error because it's saying this object has too many things. It has ID, symbol, name, price, change percent, trend, volume, time. Are you sure you want to render it this way? So the answer is no. We want to do a map over it very quickly. So I'm going to say stocks dot. Oh, so it's not telling me what to do next because, well, it is not typed, right? So let's type it. I'm going to say that there is. So currently, if I just do stocks dot something, it says I have no idea what stocks is of type. So I'm not going to suggest you anything. So and that's where TypeScript comes in handy, because if you give it proper types, then it goes like, oh, I know what to do. So stock chart props. Let's create a stock chart props. And I'm going to say that it will have a single element stocks, which is of type stock, which comes from our WebSocket. So in our WebSocket, there is an export type stock already defined. So now this should be of type okay. So now that it knows what to do, there we go. It gives many suggestions. It goes like, oh, I know it is of type array, so let me tell you what to do. So I say map over it, and let's say for each stock, I want to do something. I want to show a p tag, and inside this p tag, I want to show each stock dot symbol. Now let's go over here, and there we go. There are the symbols. Now for each stock, I also want to show the price. And it complains. It's like it needs to have only one parent element. So I'm going to say, oh, you know what? I can wrap you in a div. So now there is only one parent element, and there are two children. And there we go. So there's the stock price. And as you can see, it actually keeps changing a bit. I don't know if it's easily noticeable. Should also add some break here. Actually, after each symbol and price. Okay, 2 or 3 breaks. There we go. And now it goes outside of the boundaries of the whole thing, thanks to our CSS that we have. Apple, Meta changed NVIDIA changed. I have no idea how to pronounce that one. Okay, so that is stock data coming in nicely, perfectly. And okay, we'll also create very quickly right here in components. Let me close all of this. So in components, where did I go? Components, I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it stock chart.css. So I'm not going to make the same mistake as before. And I'm going to say that here you go. This is where all the stock chart CSS will live. Okay. So also, I think I have a chart area defined. Let me check if I do or not. Yeah, I do. So I can use this quickly in chart.ts. No, in app.tsx. I can say, let's wrap this in a div. And I'm going to say the class name is chart-area. And that's a chart area currently. Okay. Not much, but it is what it is. So that is the chart area. And later on, or I can do it right now. Let me go over and I'm going to say, actually, let's use fragments. So if you don't know what is fragment, a fragment is, you can think of it as a div element, but it does not show anything in the DOM. Okay, it's empty element technically. So in here, we can leave a quick note. Please wait at least 10 seconds before selecting a stock to see real dash time data. Okay. And I think I have another info. I don't have info. Okay, cool. Sad. I did not add CSS for it. We can quickly add it. Dot info dash message, and we can just say background color. Oh, also I should hide this, and you have more access to the screen. So background color, let's say some random color here. I also set the border color. Let's say border left. 4 pixels, solid, and what colors do I have? Red. Let's go with this red. Add some padding on X and Y as 10 pixels. No, top and bottom. Top, bottom, left, right. Yes. And for radius, let's say 4 pixels. And the text color, let's go with this, or maybe a darker version of it somewhere here. Okay, now we can use this in our info message. We can give this a class name of info dash message. There we go. Perfect. And what else? I'm going to make one change. I'm going to set this padding to 0 and align items to stretch and overflow. Let's make it hidden. Perfect. So this makes much more sense. Nice. Okay, so there would be no overflow beyond this size, which was happening before. Set it to stretch, but don't worry about it yet. uh, okay, let's go to our chart. So now in our chart, let's start by, I guess I would say, start by adding D3. Let's delete all of this. Let me minimize this a bit. The server is up and running. Let's go to chart.tsx. So we have created our chart component, which is fine, and it takes in one prop. Oh, by the way, you can also move this prop from here to here, saying that this is a react.functional component and it has props of type stock chart props. Okay, so even then it will understand basically. Now let's create some variables for our use case. If you remember from our previous sessions, we had a margin defined, right? So let's do that. So this is our configuration for our chart. We'll say top 40, the right as 30, bottom as 50, and left as 60. We discussed this in detail in the previous session, so I'm not going to do that again. And I'm going to have another variable wait time for data, which is 10. So this is, we are going to wait for at least 10 seconds before the data, before we have enough data. Okay, let's just say that before we have enough data to work with. Next, to import D3, we can follow the documentation that they have, which was right here. Yes. So we need to import star as D3 from D3. That's how they suggest importing it, because we want to import all the modules as this keyword D3 from this D3 folder. Where is this folder? It is in node modules. So the node modules, if you go, there must be a D3. And this D3, we are saying that we want to import all the things that you provide as an export. Okay. So that is what this line means. What else? Okay. So step one, let's go step by step. Let's start with const selected stock and set selected stock. We are going to use useState, local variables, and this will be either a string or null, because, well, it is possible that you don't select anything initially, right? I mean, not possible. Definitely, you won't have anything selected initially. Next, let's have another variable to keep track of, is the data ready or not? So data ready and set data ready. Again, a useState variable, initially false, the data is not ready. And we are going to use effect. If you don't know what is a use effect, it is an effect is like a side effect. A side effect is something basically which runs after the component has mounted. Think of mounting. I'm not saying that it works this ways, but think of mounting as something that is ready on your screen. You remember the example of collecting all the sand in a bucket, in a box, whatever you say. That is all your virtual DOM updates, and then you apply it to the real DOM. So when you apply it to the real DOM, things need to change, the UI needs to update. You can think of it as a render. Okay, not think, but that's what would happen whenever you have a state change. Whenever a variable value changes or a state changes, as it is called, React will re-render. So whenever there is a re-render, at the end of that re-render, or if you want to do that re-render specifically when some variable changes, you can use an effect. Okay, so we're going to use the use effect hook that React provides. Where is it? Here, react.dev. And you can see previously I have searched for it because that is my go-to, and I will share it in the chat as well. There you go. Oh, I did not see these messages. Yes, I agree. And I'll try to, but I'm also concerned, like people who are a bit beginner, they might fall behind. So I'm also taking them into account, but I understand what you mean and I'll try to be a bit more quick. So use effect, I'm going to say if there is a selected stock, okay, then I am going to use the has enough historical data. Okay, and I'm going to say for that particular selected stock, check if you have minimum 5 entries. So you can check the has enough historical data. It returns a boolean and it will get the stock history of a symbol by going into the session storage and finding that stock name. And for that particular stock, see if there are at least 5 data points. If it has 5 data points, then we are going to say that data is ready to be charted. So set data ready to true, else it needs to be set to false. Okay. Now, if it is set to false, when it is true, when let's say you choose a stock name and it has minimum 5 data points, fine. If it is false, okay, if there is not enough data, then we can wait for some time for that data to be true. So like, let's say we wait for 1 second or we wait for 10 seconds before that data becomes available. Okay, so let's quickly create a const wait timer ref, which is a use ref, which is nothing but again a reference to a variable. Now this variable, if you think of a render or a re-render as a reload, okay, imagine that a re-render is like a reload. Then by keeping a ref on a variable, you are saying that even if the whole page reloads, do not update the value of this variable back to null or back to 0. Okay, wait for it. But also you may think that, oh, then we should use ref for everything, then we don't need to ask React to update or slash. We can always cheat, but cheating is bad. You will have somewhere which says do not use a ref should, I don't remember where, but somewhere in their documentation they say that do not use ref for everything. Okay, yeah, do not use ref for everything. Use it only when you have to actually manipulate the DOM directly rather than going through the React way. I don't know where it was, but somewhere it is. Okay, cool. So I'm going to keep a track of the timer or a time, and I'm going to say if wait timer ref dot current, Okay. Then in that case, window dot clear timeout. This is me being nice and clearing any timers. So wait timer ref dot current. Okay, so what are we doing? So current is basically the current value of the ref variable. So I've created a wait timer ref. Okay, so let's first use it, and then this piece of code will make much more sense. If not, then we are going to say wait timer ref dot current is equal to window dot set timeout. So you can also do directly timeout, but I like window dot set timeout. Window dot set timeout, and now we check if has enough historic data for the selected stock, at least has 5 data points. If it does, then set data ready to true. And when should this timer be called? So this timer should be called in wait time for data, which is 10 seconds multiplied by 1000. So 10 into 1000, that should give us 10 seconds, right? 10,000 milliseconds, which is 10 seconds. Yes. Okay, so what have we done? And finally, actually, let's also do a cleanup. Or let me explain this first. So what have we done? So ignoring this part for 1 second, we are saying that first see if the user selects a stock. So we'll give user a drop down here, a drop down somewhere here, saying that, oh, you can select a stock from this drop down. The list of stocks will be these stocks that you see on the right hand side. So a user can choose one stock, and it will first check if there are enough data points. So for, let's say, if the user chooses Apple, have we received at least 5 updates for Apple? And like our session storage, does it have at least 5 data points for Apple? If it does, then we'll set this variable to true. Why do we do that? Because our charting actually depends on this. If the variable is like, if there is no data, what will our chart do? And it will throw an error. So to avoid that error, we are keeping a track of this data ready variable. So we set it to true. But now assume that the user has chosen Apple and there are not 5 data points. Okay, the server has not sent 5 updates yet. In that case, we set it to first false. It was already false, but we again set it to false. That's fine. And then we start a timer. So we say that we will check back if in the next 10 seconds we have enough data points for that particular stock. How do we decide 10 seconds? Well, wait time for data is 10 multiplied by 1000, which will give me 10,000, which is 10 seconds. If my math is mathing, then yes, it is 10 seconds. So if after 10 seconds, we are going to say that, and we have created this ref variable where we update the value of this current. Okay, so wait timer dot ref is the current value of the ref. So after 10 seconds, it would have updated, and it would update. It will keep track of it between renders. And after 10 seconds, if there are enough data points, it will set it to true. Now, if assuming after 10 seconds it checks and if there's not enough data points, we are going to say that first clear the timeout and now start again for next 10 seconds, wait for 10 more seconds to see if we have enough data points in next 10 seconds. So we're clearing the timeout. Okay. So that is us being skeptical that our server will not send us enough updates, which is fine. And then finally, once we actually, we can do it here, right? So we can say return. So this is our cleanup. Okay. On unmount, you can think of unmount as, if you think of re-render as reload, think of unmount as closing the tab. So if you close the tab, your browser will keep on like doing that timeout. It will keep on counting in the background. But if you have closed the tab, it does not really need to do the counting in background. So this is us doing a cleanup, saying that, oh, just clear the interval, clear the timeout, sorry, not clear interval, clear the timeout. on unbound. And now this whole use effect, it depends on the change in the selected stock. Let's say you selected Apple and there are not enough data points and you are impatient like me, you cannot wait for 10 seconds, and you switch over to Google. So if you switch over, then it has to again check if Google stock has enough data points to plot. If it does, nice. So, and then it will set this variable to true. So if you change the stock, then it needs to redo this calculation, rerun this use effect. So that is why in the dependency array of this use effect, we will add the selected stock. Okay, to say that this use effect needs to rerun or re-trigger every time the selected stock changes. So that's our code till the time being. Okay, what next? So the next bit is, let's find some historical data. What's the time? It is 7:42. I have 15 minutes before we take a 15-minute break. Okay, now I understand why I should be quicker. Okay, so let's find the stock data. So we can say const stock data equals selected stock. If there is a selected stock, then in the stocks array that we have, dot find, not filter, dot find the selected, I can say for a stock or each stock, let's say. Okay, so we are saying if there is a selected stock, if user has selected some thing from the drop down, if they have selected Google from the drop down, GWGL, so first it needs to go into this array of objects and then find, like go over each of them and then try and match the each stock dot symbol which matches the selected stock. You cannot have two stocks with the same symbol. So this should return us one value, or it can return us null. If let's say you, for some reason in our drop down, there is a stock named ABCDEFG, user selects that, it is not actually sent from the server. That stock does not have a price. So then it will return null in that case. So again, being skeptical here, we do defensive programming here. We say that this is the good case, happy path, and this is the worst case scenario. So once again, we from the drop down, user selects something. If user selects something, we first go over our stocks array, then try to find for each stock object, we find the symbol which matches the one that the user has selected. Okay. Next, to plot, we need some historical data. So I'm going to say historical data. But I'm going to use the real-time data that we have stored inside our session storage. So yeah, let's do that. So I'm going to say that, actually, let's also use memo this. Okay, that would be nicer. If there is no selected stock, or there is no stock data for the stock that we selected, just return an empty array. Again, defensive first. So this is our case of early return. Okay. Now, assuming that this statement passes, basically there is a selected stock, or there is some stock data, which depends on selected stock technically. So let's say there is a selected stock or selected data, and then now we are going to say storage data equals get stock history, which is again our utility function, and we'll get the selected stock. And if the storage data dot length, since it's an array, we can say if the length is less than 5, return empty array first again. Okay, we need to have enough data points before we start doing anything. And now we can say return the storage data dot map over that storage data, and we can say for each stock entry, technically I want to return an object where we have a date which is new date of entry dot timestamp. So from the timestamp we are making a new date, and the price is actually dependent on the entry dot price. Okay, so for, let's say, Amazon, we it is there are at least 5 data points, then we loop over it and we return a new object from this use memo. Now, what is use memo? So use effect is a hook, which is a side effect, right? Which actually depends on uh, if like whenever this value changes, then this will rerun. Use memo is used to memoize a value. Okay, memoizing means that it will only recompute, or this thing will only rerun if one of the things in the dependency changes. So example, in this case, if the selected stock changes, we need to do this recalculation, or if the stock data changes, we need to do this recalculation. Otherwise, you don't need to, frankly. Okay, so there's our historical data variable. And finally, how much time? Okay, I think not finally. Cool. Another thing is, let's create a const handle stock change. So this is a function for our drop down. So when we create the drop down, it will have an event which is actually of type react dot change event, and this will be a HTML select element. Again, typing it out nicely, and we'll set the selected stock to whatever is the event dot target dot value. Okay, so we are creating this function. So we'll call this function for our drop down that we'll create in 1 second. Actually, let's create the drop down first before we go ahead, so that it makes much more sense with respect to what you will see on the screen. Okay, I'm going to give this a class name of stock dash chart dash container. Inside this, we'll create another div which will have a class name again. Let's give it chart dash controls. Now in here we'll have a select, which is your normal HTML select. Select has an option, so we can give it a default option with value as empty string, which will say select a stock, or we can do what we had done a moment ago, where we had mapped over all the stocks, and for each stock I'm going to say create a drop down option where key is something that will uniquely identify this option, and value would actually be stock dot symbol, and we can just show stock dot symbol dash a colon stock dot name. Okay, and for this select itself, we can say that the value is actually selected stock, or it is empty. On change, whenever this changes, I want you to call this handle stock change function, which will set the value. And we can also give it a class name of stock dash selector to style it nicely. Okay, so there's a stock. It says select a stock as default. Okay, that is default selected. Now we switch over to Apple, Google, Amazon. So that's just a simple drop down. So our this handle stock change is basically setting this particular value. Okay. Also, if I don't have this key, okay, if I don't have this key, then React will complain. Okay, it will be like you're trying to, map a list to an element, which is nice, which is fine, but you should have a unique key that will make your whole thing more performant, because that's how React will know which values have changed. Okay, so now adding a key and anything that is unique, which will help React keep track of what has changed, and only when something has changed is when React will do a re-render. Okay, so React becomes very smart that ways. Okay, and now I have 5 more minutes before I end this session. So what do we want to do? Can we start the chart? Nope, not technically. Okay, you know what? Let's end it a bit early right now. The next session is also mine. So let me come back on screen. Okay. The next session is also my session, but I want to take, let's say, 10-minute break in between. So let me end this session. It has one error where it's like, historical data never called. What do you want me to do? Actually, let's just console log historical data. Oh, margin is also not called D3. Okay, too many things not called. Currently, historical data is empty. Why? Because we have not selected a stock. I select Apple, and it has 100 data in our session storage. Okay, there are 100 data points which have been ticking, and this is the price. This is only for Apple. Okay. As you may notice that it was not visible until I chose Apple. If I go back to select a stock, it goes back to 0, an array of 0, because it's like, well, select a stock is not a stock. Anyways, so that's a quick mapping, and I should remove this before I forget. That will cause a lot of re-renders. Anyways, let me push this, get status. Let me push all of this to GitHub, and we'll end this session. The next session is also mine. I will start a new Twitch stream. Till then, take a quick break. We'll come back in 10-12 minutes, let's say. It is 7:54. My exact time is 7:55 now. So let's take a 10-minute break, and then we'll be back for the next session. I'll end this session. I'll start a new session. I'll also post a message on Discord. Also, before we go away, feedback, before I forget. Yeah, this is the link. I was like, where is the link? So based on this session, you can provide a feedback for this session. Like if you liked it, if you did not like it, this is React charting with D3.js and React part 5, and give a rating. 1 is worst, 10 is best, and any constructive criticism is welcome. And I'm not going to waste too much time on this, because we also need to do the next session. And if there are no further questions, I'll like to end this right now. Anyone? Okay, I'm going to take the silence as golden. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in 10-15 minutes. Okay, I'll start the session early, but you don't have to join. Just have some dinner, have some water, and then be back. Cheers. Thanks, everyone.